Hi, my name is Grayson Kirby, and I will be talking about witnessing the miracles that have defined who I am today. Miracles are rare blessings. Some people say I'm the unluckiest kid in the whole wide world. However, I view myself in my own eyes that I am the luckiest kid. I have watched both of my parents battle and survive cancer. I've also got to watch, through my mom and dad's cancer, the community's involvement and God's work firsthand, which is pretty incredible. All of this has made me a better student, athlete, community member, and individual. First, I'll be talking about my mom's cancer, so let's begin. My mom was diagnosed with thyroid cancer when I was around the age of 6. My little sister was a toddler at the time, and she was only 2. Watching my mom go through this cancer, I didn't really understand or grasp the concept of cancer because I was so young. I kind of thought it was like the flu or strep. She'd only be sick for a few days. She'd be able to come right back home and play and be normal again. However, this was not the case. My mom had to go through many treatments up at St. Louis, which is about 3.5 hours away from my hometown, Doniphan. One of the treatments she had to undergo was radioactive treatments, which meant she had to quarantine and isolate herself from me, my sister, and our family. In today's society, quarantine isolation is normal for 2 weeks due to the pandemic, but back then it was not. This was very hard for my mom, not just physically during the treatments, but mentally too. This has inspired me and showed me that how to face adversity and try to get around the obstacles that life has thrown at you. For example, during her radioactive treatments, she would sit at one side of the door where she was quarantined, and me and my sister would sit on the other side, and we would talk and laugh and giggle just to try to make the experience a little bit better. This has defined me and made me a stronger woman today. Next, I'll be talking about my dad's cancer, which has been pretty life-changing. At the age of 10, my dad was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer, which is a very curable and which no cancer is easy, but on the spectrum, it's an easier cancer to have. However, my dad had refractory Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer, which meant his body rejected all the medications, treatments that the doctors gave him to try to battle this off. This was very tough for me and my sister because now that I'm a little older, I was able to grasp the concept and I was more mature, so I could kind of understand and see what was going on a lot better. My dad first started up in St. Louis. However, treatments were not going well there. He wasn't expected to live, and it was the night of the Ferguson riots. So my dad was only just a couple minutes away from where that all took place, so the hospital was on lockdown. So my mom and my dad were sitting there in his hospital room as one of his nurses came in to kind of watch the news with him. Her husband was actually one of the cops on the front line during the riots, and her name was Nurse Barb, and to us she was an angel. She told my dad that it was probably best that he goes to MD Anderson, and she told us this knowing that she could risk losing her job if anyone found out. She said she understands what it is like to be scared, to have a fear of losing someone, which she did that night, watching her husband not knowing what's going to happen during those riots. And when she did this, they left the hospital, packed up their bags, and my Mimi, which is my dad's mom, and my dad moved to Houston, Texas. He was gone for what seemed like forever to me, and this was a struggle because I didn't have a father figure at home anymore. I also saw nights of my mom having breakdowns because she's trying to help her 2 young children as she's watching her husband lay on his deathbed. But I truly did not know what to do in this situation. I just knew that I had to be a strong person to help relieve the stress of my family. So at this time, I was very angry with God. I did not understand why this had to happen, why my dad was sick, why my dad was in pain, why he was ill. It didn't make sense to me at all. And this is kind of where the community comes in. So cancer treatments, the traveling cost, because we live in Missouri and Houston's all the way in Texas, over 10 hours away. It all just piles up. And so we were financially struggling. Well, our amazing community, which is only about 1,900 people, all came in and did a benefit for my dad, and they raised over $30,000 for him. This was the first miracle I truly witnessed watching my dad go through his cancer. It opened my eyes and truly took my breath away. Then we also had a nonprofit organization in Poplar Bluff, Missouri, which is about 30 minutes away, UCAN. They donated tons of money to help my dad and our family, which meant a lot to me, and that was kind of God opening my eyes and saying it's going to be okay. So fast forward about a year and a half later, my dad has undergone many chemo treatments, stem cell transplants. He even had his spleen removed. I mean, his body was in pretty bad shape. Still to this day, his organs are damaged just from all the harsh treatments. However, after his stem cell transplant, the doctors told us that he was cancer-free, which was the greatest words I've ever heard out of anyone's mouth say, because they only gave my dad a 20% chance of living. Unfortunately, they did tell him that the chance is very likely that he will never get to see me graduate. And I was only in 4th grade at this time. And so it was pretty scary to think that I would never get to have my dad at my graduation, my wedding one day, for him to be the grandfather of my kids, until just a couple years ago. He went back for a follow-up appointment, and they told him that his health is perfect, that it's great. And so they said he'll be able to watch me graduate one day, hopefully walk down the aisle with me. And so that's just a blessing in itself. And the community's partake in everything, it was amazing. I mean, I had teachers that knew, like, there was days I just broke down in school. I mean, I was struggling on the bad days. They were there every step of the way. They helped me, they calmed me down. There were some days where we would go off to Houston and I would be so behind in work. They would help get me all caught up in everything. I had amazing best friends who were there to talk to me, my best friends' families that were there to take care of me. It all meant a lot. So as I sum all this up, these are the miracles that I have witnessed that have truly defined who I am. I believe that if you have witnessed a miracle, you should be able to tell the world about it, because it's just amazing to see God's work in different people's lives. Thank you for listening to my story.